that you hear?
As well, for especially students from East Asia, L and R, the TH sounds, the V sound, and the in Chinese, you have initials and finals, and the finals always end in a vowel kind of sound. But in English, we can have a strong D or a strong T or a strong S. For example, my son's name is Lucas. His
Right.
grandmother will say Lucas,
Okay.
not Lucas. And trying to break that habit, it takes a little while, but the students can hear it. But trying to
Yeah,
stop them is another challenge.
I've heard that with my Korean students before. They break up a word into segments, and it has to deal with something about how Korean speakers breathe, like the breathing of a language can affect how the pronunciation is. So you mentioned two problems, one at the beginning of a word and one at the end of the word. We talked about how to practice the beginning. What about the ending? This S sound or the hard D or the T.
I have not had to handle it with Chinese students as such.
Any other
Well,
students?
well, with my Vietnamese students, the problem isn't so much D and T, it's that they drop the last sound of the word.
Completely.
Yes, completely.
Okay.
And and that is a holdover from Vietnamese. They don't say the last letters usually. I I have to deal with the repercussion. That is, I have to deal with the effect, especially with my Chinese students. And I can mention it to them, but that's about as much as I can do. They cognitively, right?
Right.
They understand it, but I'm not, I don't know very much about speech instruction for this problem, for example, and how to get them from making a sound.
Right. I think a lot of us English teachers, we do focus mostly on that, the first portion of the word, and we kind of neglect the ending portion, mostly because that's probably the one that's easier to enunciate. Like you can point out a hard D when you teach the past tense, like the ed ending,
Right.
or any other past
Yes.
tense in general. Past, or did he? Did he? He drank milk. That's a little bit different, but it's a hard K at the end there. So things like that, it's easier to emphasize in class than to work on the first part of the word itself, which can be a little tricky and requires a lot more demonstrations sometimes.
I have a
So
question.
sure.
In American English, we will say China or panda. But I know in British English, in a lot of words, they have a very soft R sound sometimes. How about Canadian English? Is it more like the American? Is it more like the British? Or it
Oh,
depends
it's
on the
very
person?
very similar to American English. Yeah, we don't add that R sound. You're talking about when people, same with, like if they say the word ideal, they'll say idear, uh, or China will be Chiner. So that's
Yes.
very common. Yeah, that's more of a British accent, British dialect. Not in Canada, we are very similar to the American pronunciation. If China, panda, ideal. Matter of fact, I would almost say that I can recognize people who are from Minnesota or North Dakota because they have what I call a very clean accent. And by that, I mean it's very similar to my own because I come from the prairies of Canada. And I've been told by more than one sources that I do have a very clear pronunciation, but maybe that's just my ego.
Yeah, see, you could pass as American almost any day of the week. And everybody knows Americans don't have accents.
Thank you, or is that a good thing or a bad thing?
But you talking about that right now, I just remembered my grandfather. My grandfather was born and grew up in Brooklyn, a part of New York City.
Right.
And so specifically in Brooklyn, they also have this soft R sound because I can hear his voice. And when I think about it now,
How would it sound? But a soft Brooklyn R. I've never heard of
I
this.
I I can't.
Tough to replicate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was born there, but I certainly didn't grow up there. I can't do it.